Welcome to Shelf Help, a channel dedicated to talking to the void about whatever book I happen to be reading. I am your host, the reader. The following review will contain spoilers. Hey look! I found my way to this series finally. This book's only been sitting on my to-be-read shelf for the last 2 years. Look, I have a lot of books and a bad habit of buying them faster than I can read them. As I tell my mother, it could be cracked. Anyway, this story takes us to the land of Ravka, a land divided, literally. A few centuries ago, a magic darkness cut the country in two. The landlocked part of the kingdom is left trapped between two enemy countries and cut off from its greatest resource, port and its trade. That's not to say there's no crossing the rift, known as the Unsea or the Fold. It's just dangerous, with flying, flesh-eating monsters that inhabit an internal, impenetrable darkness. It's always the little things, huh? Alina Starvok is a war orphan. Born in an unnamed village somewhere to the north, she's taken in by a kind nobleman with other orphans. When she grows up, she joins the First Army as a map maker, alongside her fellow orphan and secret love interest, Maul, who is a tracker. Their first trip across the Fold goes poorly. Their sandskiff is attacked, and people dragged off into the darkness to be consumed. Alina's saved by Mel, but both are wounded. When the monsters descend again, Alina learns she has suppressed magical abilities. She's a Grisha, specifically an extremely rare sun summoner. She's quickly whisked off to the capital with assassins on her heels. She soon learns that she could be the key to ending the Fold and reuniting the country. Grisha are not magic users in the traditional sense. For example, they can't create fire, but they can bring together combustible elements and use flint to create a spark to ignite it. There are 3 kinds of Grisha, then further divided into subgroups. Corporal Likai, the Ethereal Likai, and the Materia Likai. The Corporal Likai are the body manipulators, subdivided into healers and heart renders. Healers, obviously, heal. Heart renders are the opposite side of that coin, able to destroy organs of anyone in line of sight. Tailors also follow under the Corporal Likai, and have the ability to change person's appearance provided they have the right materials. Ethereal Likai are elementals, and collectively known as summoners. Squallers control wind, Inferni control fire, Tidemakers control water. The Darkling with his ability to summon darkness, and Alina with her ability to summon light, are technically summoners. Finally, there are the Materia Likai, generally called fabricators, who manipulate material. Distara manipulate solids, and Alchemy manipulate chemicals. There is some rank among them, but it feels almost arbitrary at this point. Likai claim higher rank than the summoners, specifically the Heartrenders, because they're the most useful in battle, and the country is in an ongoing war. However, they rank Tailors lowest possible rank, and the Darkling and Sun Summoner are both summoners, but they take the top ranks. The Fabricators don't really seem to rank or care about rank. So at least at this point, rank feels arbitrary. The most powerful person in this world is the Darkling, and you will be shocked to learn that he is in fact the bad guy and wants to use Alina's power to rule the world. I will give you a moment to rein in your shock. Honestly, I can't even consider that a spoiler because it's the first thought I had about him. Also, he calls himself the Darkling, which is so edgelord it might as well be flashing neon sign over his head says the bad guy. He quickly becomes exactly what a lonely, fish-out-of-water girl needs, offering her dreams of becoming the savior of the world at his side as one of the most powerful summoners to ever be born. All she needs is a little practice and an amplifier made from the antlers of an extremely rare, possibly mythological stag. And all the dreams she never dared to dream will come true. He's a classic manipulative abuser. He tells people what they want to hear, creates in-groups and out-groups by taking people into his inner circle or expelling them. He's the second in power only to the king, but the king is an idiot. And he has his own army made entirely of Grisha. So he's effectively the most powerful man in the kingdom. So, powerful, rich, and important people are desperate to be in his good graces. What lonely, naive girl could resist, right? Her other love interest is Mal, the orphan boy she grew up with. He's extroverted, bright, and probably the best tracker in the entire kingdom. Becoming part of the First Army really brought him into his own. He has tons of friends and admirers, and though he still comes to see Alina from time to time, those times are becoming fewer and farther between. So, am I supposed to like Mal? The narrative implies that I should. I mean, I get the whole grew up together, grew apart, absence makes the heart grow fonder thing. But when they finally meet again, the first thing he says to her is to call her the Darkling's whore. And though he does come to her rescue, he spends a good week or two just not talking to her because he's mad. And when he does talk to her, he treats her like a child. Look here, bitch. She ain't your property. Even if she's sleeping with the Darkling and every other man in that fucking school, it isn't any of your goddamn business. Just because you belatedly decided you loved her, does not give you a say over who or what she does. So pull up your big boy panties and stop being a jackass. Seriously, I hate this trope. Mel is not fundamentally different from the Darkling. He's still manipulating Alina's feelings for his own ends. He doesn't want to steal her power to rule the world, but he's just as controlling. I really hope she drops him for someone better, or at bare minimum, someone kicks him in the head and tells him to stop being an ass. The lesser of two evils is still evil. Please stop putting this shit in YA. Please. Hell, can we have healthy relationships in general in all genres? Or at least not pass up pointing out when a relationship is unhealthy? Yes, unhealthy relationships have more drama, but you can have drama in other places. Okay, getting off topic. Anyway, then there's Jenya, the closest thing Alana has to a real friend. At least at first. She's another unique Grisha, and she's the only tailor in this story. The Darkling cultivated her talent and made her a gift to the Queen, who she keeps looking young and beautiful. Being the only tailor, she's looked down on by the other Grisha for being a glorified servant. She even wears servant colors. And she made the perfect friend for lonely Alina. The fact that she could make a girl who never thought much of what she looked like feel pretty doesn't hurt either. But again, she works for the Darkling. All Grisha do. But she's more directly than most. Which kind of brings me to my musings about this series. Aside from, wahaha, going to use the Sun Summer to rule the world, what was his plan? The whole war is about Shuhan and Phrygia hating Grisha and putting them to death on sight. In fact, they hate them so much they're willing to expend resources to have an ongoing war for over a century to kill them in another country as well. That's some Hitler-level shit. Further, in his own country, the Darkling has divided the Grisha from the normies. The First Army serves the king. It's poorly equipped, while the king lives in lavish luxury. The Grisha all serve the Darkling in the Second Army. All children are tested for power at an early age, and if they're Grisha, their parents are given money and they're whisked off to school and hidden away from the world until they can be of use. The most talented entered the Darkling service, but lesser Grisha end up serving various nobles. Even if they don't live in luxury like the king, they have it way better than the rest of the country. They wear silk that can stop bullets, they travel by carriage, they sleep in nice beds. The First Army has to make do with hand-me-downs and short rations. And the normies are afraid of the Grisha, as evident by how they treat them. Even when they are necessary to help travel across the fold, contact is as limited as possible. When Alina shows her power for the first time, they march her to the Darkling at gunpoint. I'm sure the fact that this ongoing war is about protecting the Grisha isn't helping things either. So what was the long-term plan here? Was he just hoping a sun summoner would show up before his own country turned on the Grisha? And I know it's nitpicking, and it really amounts to nothing, but my logistic brain can't let it go. The Grisha are supposed to be eating like peasants, and meals often consist of pickled herring, which would have to be imported over the fold, which would probably make them expensive and not peasant food. I know, it's just how my brain works, sorry. Last thing. Overall, I like the story, it's fun, but the ending bothers me because it stomps all over its premise. Spoiler alert here. Alina comes to the realization that the Morzava stag granted her its power, the power needed to overcome the Darkling's control, because she showed it compassion. She then promptly shows that compassion to save only Mel, leaving innocent Grisha in the Darkling service and representative diplomats from the king and other countries to die in the darkness of the fold. Not to mention the unknown number of unnamed civilians the Darkling just used her power to slaughter. Mel was the only one in this situation worth fighting for. And then they board the ship and sail away while their country descends into civil war. This is compassion? I'm going to put this on my third shelf. It's pretty average from what I expect from YA. Normal girl develops superpowers, is swept off to a magic school, does some glowing up, and is totally not the bad guy turns out to be the bad guy. While it does lose points for having love interest being a jackass and missing the meaning of its own premise, it's kind of a fun story. I already have the second and third book waiting on my to-be-read shelf. The world and characters as a whole are interesting, and I look forward to seeing what happens in the future. Thank you for your time. I know everyone's mileage will vary, so feel free to leave your thoughts.